All right. Hello, everybody. This is James Saki. I am with Mr. Damian Davis. He is the founder and CEO of Davis Insurance Services. He's one of the sponsors for the Dallas Business Symposium coming up on October 4th. And we're going to just briefly cover a few questions just to give you guys an idea of what we're going to cover at the symposium. Damian is actually one of the sponsors for the cybersecurity portion, the panel that will be exploring some of the new regulations that are taking place and coming out, some of the activities from the FTC and such around data collection, data privacy, all of that kind of stuff. So let's get to it. Damian, what's one misconception you believe many business leaders have about the impact of cybersecurity, data privacy, et cetera, on their companies?
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me, James. The real misconception I see a lot of times is the idea that there's no real return on investment, no ROI in investing in cybersecurity controls. I'm going to be honest with you. In 2022, we saw where the average cost of a data breach, ticked upward to around $4.5 million, and that number is not looking to slow down. In 2025, they're expecting aggregated breach costs to breach somewhere around the $10 trillion mark. So, if those numbers, as staggering as they are, if those numbers don't, give cause or concern and cause business leaders to at least stop and think about, data collection, how they're disclosing, how they're collecting that data, how they're collecting the data, what types of data they're collecting, organizing that data within the organization, protecting that data, hiring somebody to lead the initiative to protect that data. I'm not sure what would help them understand how important the investment in cybersecurity is. But there are a lot of different ways to look at it, and I just find the misconception is that folks just outright just think that there's no return on investment. And not only investing in cybersecurity controls and in the staff to manage those controls, but also to maintain the staff as well.
Man, I want to go in on that real bad. We're going to definitely unpack that on the panel for sure. How do you personally stay ahead of changes in your field, and what advice would you give to business leaders looking to do the same?
Sure. So we at Davis Insurance Services do it a little bit different, right? So we've got the cyber insurance brokerage piece, and then we also have the cybersecurity solutions piece, which ultimately that's really I would say the real big part of helping us stay ahead of the curve. 12 years in the cyber insurance underwriting game, I found that the reason we a lot of times, for lack of better words, get caught with our pants down as underwriters, really is because we're continuing to underwrite to outdated controls. Where it was once encryption, right now it's multi-factor authentication. Where it was once commercial grade antivirus and firewall software technology, now it's endpoint detection and response, which even that's becoming outdated, right? We're seeing articles all the time where bad actors are beginning to develop tools to help them effectively defeat multi-factor authentication and endpoint detection and response. So now we're looking to take things a step further and really invest in, teaching helping our clients understand the importance of investment in, zero trust authentication. Like I mentioned before, investments in leadership, whether it be virtual chief information security officer roles, virtual CISO roles, or in-house CISO roles. The other piece of it is to building out the cybersecurity team and actually retaining them, not saying, okay, we did this, we appeased the board, now it's time to, kind of let them go and, let some, make some room on the budget. People have to understand that, oftentimes what we're seeing from a gray hat hacker to a black hat hacker, right? That median in between is that they're, between jobs, right? And, it just so happens that, cybercrime pays a little bit better than, legitimate business. But at the end of the day, I don't know that any of us would really like looking over our shoulders. And so the idea is that, investing in those people, investing in that talent, because there's a ton of talent out there, investing in that talent, helping, businesses to understand it's important to retain that talent. I would say those are the things that are really helping us stay ahead of the curve because we're getting a little bit more involved than a lot of the insurance brokers that are out there transacting cyber insurance.
Sounds like it, man. That's pretty robust. That's a really good point about that you mentioned about gray hats and kind of being in between jobs. That's not something you normally think about, so that's interesting. Okay, what are some specific challenges you believe middle market firms face that larger companies may not experience when it comes to cybersecurity or cyber insurance?
Sure. At the end of the day, large enterprise companies, right? We're talking, 500 million and up. They have the robust budgets to invest in cybersecurity controls to build out their multi-factor authentication across the enterprise. 24/7, 365, security operations centers. They have we used to call it they have the bodies to throw at the CISOs that, keep them on staff. Um, middle markets, right? It's middle for a reason, between a rock and a hard place, I always say, and so at the end of the day, even though they may be growing, right? They may be getting ready to transition from 5 million to 10 million. They may be getting ready to see a big bang, in their business growth. They're still allocating 10% of that budget, right? When, it really boils down to the philosophy of the leadership of the organization. Do they value cybersecurity or do they not? Um, I know for me personally, as a cyber insurance underwriter, when I was on an underwriting call, um, I always like to know what the application or what the public filings aren't telling me. So if I ask about patching cadence and they say they're, patching continuously, vulnerability scanning continuously, then that's a risk I want to be on. But, if they're saying, well, I might only patch maybe 120 days, I don't know, I got to get back to my CISO. I'll talk to you. It, that lets me know that maybe the philosophy is not there. So, a lot of it is really about, the difference between the two is really the budget, right? The financial strength. But that still doesn't mean that they can't still value cybersecurity and have an aligning philosophy where across the business landscape, whether it's small business or large business, they're still thinking risk and they're beginning, they're still understanding that at some point we need to invest in these controls. And in the meantime, here are these, in a way, less expensive services, or professionals that we can invest in. And so that's been kind of the biggest disconnect that we've seen.
Hmm. Interesting. I feel like a lot of that parallels what I deal with from the marketing side of things. It's very much that same mentality. It's like if they've got really good, crisp answers to questions I ask, I know it's on their mind. But if they're kind of loose about it or kind of in a, they're kind of wishy-washy with their replies, I know it's not that important, but
Yep.
it definitely should be. Okay, last question. If you could change one aspect of the current regulation or the market or the business environment we're in surrounding cybersecurity or the insurance, what would it be and why?
Sure. So twofold, right? I definitely like to see at some point we adopt kind of the mindset that Europe has in terms of GDPR, right? Sweeping a legislative change across the entire landscape of Europe. Um, I think that the United States would benefit from something like that. Obviously there's some constitutional implications that maybe some privacy attorneys would argue me down about, but the reality is that I think as the United States of America, right, we have to be on one accord as to how we are protecting, protecting protecting ourselves really. And, privacy, data security has now become a big part of that. The other thing I would say is on a state level, we definitely I think could stand to have some regulation specifically around cyber insurance underwriting. You don't know how many questions I get from cybersecurity professionals that ask, is there like a special certification or licensing for transacting cyber insurance? And I just have to kind of just give them the slow kind of shrug, like not really, because at the end of the day, it's lumped all into property and casualty, right? It's just considered a typical insurance line. But I think if we could devote a little bit more attention to the seriousness of underwriting for cyber insurance, right? Again, because like I just mentioned before, we get caught underwriting in this bucket, and then we end up not really paying attention to what's coming. And as AI continues to unfold and take its stake not only in cybersecurity, but in cybercrime. I think that definitely we as insurance professionals have to be much more well versed. And if we don't want to do that on our own, then there's got to be some regulation there to kind of give us a little swift kick on the backside. It's just my thought.
No, I agree. I agree. Very interesting points, man. Very interesting. Well, I definitely appreciate your feedback, and I think the audience will too. I'm really looking forward to unpacking some of these things at the panel for sure. And for those of you that will be watching, get more from Damian at the panel, and definitely make sure to sign up. It is October 4th, 2 p.m. at the Stone Lee Hotel in Uptown Dallas. Thank you for tuning in.